Today, we're looking at a draft about a massive media implosion, specifically Candace Owens' podcast falling from #1 all the way down to 187 on the Apple charts.
Yeah, and the author links it directly to her coverage of Charlie Kirk's death, right? And all those conspiracy theories she was pushing.
Exactly. Now, the premise here is fascinating, but the tone, that brings us straight to our first point. This piece is just saturated with emotionally charged adjectives, and it actually, I think, hurts the argument.
It really does. I mean, it creates a barrier for the reader. On the first page alone, I'm seeing words like wild incitement, madness, delusional.
Right.
It feels less like an analysis and, more like a venting session.
And that's a huge problem if you want to convince anyone who isn't already in your camp. It reads like a hit job, not a friends that got it.
In the height of madness, Owens hinted that the Mossad orchestrated the hit. My reaction to that, as a reader, is to pull back. I think, okay, madness is your opinion.
Show me, don't tell me.
Exactly. So let's fix it. Let's strip away the judge. What's the core fact there?
Well, the fact is that she spent a lot of time on this. You could just say, Owens dedicated 12 consecutive episodes to the theory that the Mossad orchestrated the hit.
See, that is so much colder and more damning.
Right?
Madness feels like a momentary lapse. 12 episodes? That's a deliberate choice. That's not madness. It's malpractice.
It's an editorial strategy.
And then there's the whole tunnel theory. The draft calls it delusional.
Again, it might be true, but is it effective writing?
No, because you want the reader to see the absurdity for themselves. So how do we do that?
You play it straight. You put her claim right next to the official record. No commentary.
Right, so something like, Owens told her audience the perpetrator escaped through a subterranean tunnel network.
And then the next sentence, the FBI site survey confirmed the building sits on a solid concrete slab with no basement or subterranean access.
Perfect. The contrast does all the work. A reader might forget you called her delusional.
But they won't forget the concrete slab.
They will not. It makes the theory seem physically impossible.
And this issue starts from the very first sentence. The author just comes out and calls her an anti-Semite.
It's putting the verdict before the trial.
Yeah, you lose anyone who's on the fence right away.
So instead you just quote her. Let the evidence speak for itself. What was the exact quote from the draft?
The quote is, Israel and the Mossad were behind the murder because Kirk changed his mind on Zionism.
I mean, what more do you need to say? That quote is radioactive. You don't need to add a single adjective. Just put it on the page.
Okay, so that's the tone. Let's pivot now to the logic of the piece. There's a bit of an issue with causality.
The classic post hoc ergo propter hoc.
Exactly. After this, therefore because of this. The draft basically says, she floated the conspiracy theories, then her rankings drop.
But correlation isn't causation.
And we have to ask, why this? I mean, let's be honest, her whole career is built on controversial takes. Why was this the one that actually did damage?
That's the million-dollar question the draft just kind of glides over. It assumes the audience left because the theories were, factually wrong.
But her audience likes conspiracy theories. That's part of the brand.
So just saying it was a lie isn't a good enough explanation for a drop to number 180. And we should probably talk about what 187 actually means.
Oh, it's a graveyard. It's catastrophic.
It's not just that people unsubscribed. It means the entire velocity of the show just stopped. People stopped downloading. They stopped finishing episodes. The algorithm buried.
Something about this made people who stuck with her through everything else just turn it off.
And I don't think it was because the Mossad theory was too unbelievable. I think it was because of the target.
Charlie Kirk.
Right. Not a stranger. Not a political enemy. He's from the same ecos. A hero to her exact demographic. They were allies.
So she's not just pushing a theory. She's, in effect, desecrating the memory of one of their own martyrs.
It violates a social compact. It feels cruel. And I think that is the causal link the author needs to explore.
It's a betrayal of her audience's values, not just to the facts.
Yes, and we can make that actionable. The author should analyze, compare it to her other conspiracies. When she talked about, the moon land, the stakes were abstract.
But here, the product she was selling was an insult to the consumer.
It was an insult to their loyalty to Kirk. You mentioned the tunnel theory versus the reality of the 22-year-old suspect.
Tyler Robinson, yeah.
The draft touches on it, but we can sharpen. It's this weird, uncanny valley of narrative. You've got the sad, gritty reality of a disturbed kid, and then you have a Tom Clancy plot.
And usually the Tom Clancy plot is what sells.
It sells when the target is a villain, but when it's your friend, it just feels gross. It feels exploitative.
The author needs to dig into the engagement data here. Did the ranking drop happen right after one specific claim?
The timeline suggests it was a sharp drop, not a slow bleed.
A breaking point.
A specific moment where the audience just said, nope, I'm out. The author needs to pinpoint that moment. Was it the episode where she mocked the police report?
Was it the day she brought up the tunnels?
Finding that moment turns this from a vague statistic into a direct, specific reaction to a specific lie.
It anchors the whole argument.
Exactly. It becomes a timeline of rejection.
And speaking of rejection, that leads us perfectly to the third point, which is the structure of the piece. There's a huge emotional anchor here that the author has completely mishandled.
You're talking about Erica Kirk.
The widow, yes. Her plea to Owens is tacked on at the very end of the article. It's treated like a footnote.
I stared at that section for a long time. You have a grieving widow publicly begging a media figure to stop using her husband's murder for clicks.
And the quote is just brutal. Please let my husband rest. Stop using our pain for your content.
And the author hides it at the bottom of the page. It's a huge mistake.
It minimizes the human cost, and it also misses, I think, the single biggest reason for the audience exodus.
100%. We were just asking why the listeners left. I would bet everything they left because of Erica Kirk.
It wasn't a private feud. It was all happening out in the open.
Very public. And for this audience, an audience that prizes family and, tradition, seeing a widow beg for peace while this podcaster just ramps up the crazy theories.
That's the ball game.
That is the ball game. That's the moment the spell breaks.
So the advice here is pretty drastic. You have to move that section, rip it from the conclusion, and put it right at the heart of the story.
I'd go even further. I think you should use her plea as the lens to interpret the data. Don't just list the ranking drop. Set the stage with Erica's plea first.
So the narrative sequence becomes Owens makes a wild claim. Erica Kirk begs her to stop.
And Owens ignores her and doubles down.
And then you show the chart. Then the ranking collapses.
Yes, that sequence establishes a morality play. It shows the audience saw this happen. They saw the widow ask for grace. They saw Owens choose engagement, and they punished her for it.
It's a much more compelling story than just algorithms are weird. It gives the data a soul.
Right. A sentence like, as Owens ignored the desperate pleas of Erica Kirk, her listeners began to ignore her. That draws a direct line between moral failure and professional failure.
And it solves the so what problem. Why do we care about a podcaster losing her audience? We care because it shows there's still a line you can't cross.
Exactly. It proves that even in this media landscape, basic decency still has a market value, or maybe indecency has a market cost.
Let's try one more structural tweak. We talked about juxtaposing the tunnel claim with the FBI report. What if we did the same thing with the lies and the family's reaction, right in the same paragraph?
Oh, that would be brutal in a good way for the piece.
So you'd write, Owens argued Kurt was killed for turning against Zionism. And the very next sentence is, a claim Erica Kirk described as exploiting her family's tragedy for ratings.
It just strips away her entire investigative journalist costume.
Yeah.
She presents herself as a seeker of truth, but when you put the widow's quote right next to the conspiracy, she just looks like a bully.
And that's why she fell. You don't get to number 187 by just being wrong. You get there by becoming the villain in your own community's story.
It's the Dolores Umbridge effect. You end up hating the cruel person more than the main bad guy.
So let's zoom out. We've got tone, logic, and structure. I just want to touch on one final concept. The draft title is The Fall of Candace Owens. It's very biblical.
Suggests it's permanent, no return.
And I wonder if the draft earns that, or focusing so much on the label of antisemitism maybe overlooks a simpler reason she declined.
You mean just incompetence?
I mean utility. Media figures serve a purpose for their audience. They provide talking points, a worldview. They're supposed to be useful.
And if your worldview is the Mossad is digging secret tunnels under convention centers, you have ceased to be useful.
Exactly. You're no longer providing political ammunition. You're just writing fan fiction.
I think we should suggest the author lean into that concept, the idea of obsolescence.
Obsolescence. That stings way more than madness, doesn't it?
So much more. Madness can imply a kind of dangerous power. The Joker is mad. Obsolescence just implies you're a VCR in the age of streaming. You don't matter anymore.
And for a pundit, being irrelevant is so much worse than being wrong.
So the author can just add a sentence about that. The podcast ceased to be a tool for conservative commentary and became a vehicle for personal fiction.
And then you hit them with the number, 187. The market confirmed her utility was 0.
And that ties the entire piece together. You move away from, I dislike Candace Owens, and toward Candace Owens broke her own business model.
It becomes a business case study. And that's persuasive to everyone, regardless of politics.
That's the goal. You want someone who might even like her to read this and just have to say, wow, the numbers don't lie, she completely blew it.
Okay, I think we have a clear path forward here. The raw materials are all there. It's just a matter of reassembling them correctly.
Totally. It's a reassembly job, not a tear down.
So to recap the plan for the author, first, neutralize the adjectives.
Go through, find every delusional, insane madness. Cut them all. Replace them with cold, hard facts. Let the facts do the work.
Second, fix the causal link. Explain the mechanism.
Right. Dig into the betrayal angle. Show how attacking a dead ally felt exploitative to her audience, and that's why they revolted.
Third, and this is the big one, elevate the human element. Erica Kirk is not a footnote.
She's the moral center of the story. Use her plea to frame the data. Make the numbers answerable to her pain.
And finally, rethink the why. It's not just about her being wrong, it's about her becoming obsolete.
She stopped being useful to her own side. Frame it as a loss of utility.
If the author makes these changes, this piece goes from just another opinion blog to a really devastating report on media failure.
It'll be the kind of thing people cite for years when this topic comes up.
I'm really excited to see the next draft. I think it's going to be a knockout.
Time to get to work.
Send us the revision when it's ready. We'll be waiting.